Good morning. I'm Gina Sudam. I'm the president of the Wyoming County Chamber of Commerce, and I'm honored to be here today representing commerce and community throughout the Endless Mountains region. It's such a great day here in Wyoming County. The sun is shining and it's warming up nicely, so we're looking forward to it. Our region here in the Endless Mountains continues to see sustained growth thanks to the natural gas industry and the small businesses that support the industry. In addition to the increased economic activity at our restaurants, our hotels, and our shops, the county and its municipalities have received $24 million in impact tax revenue, money used by our local elected officials to fund critical community projects and to bring natural gas utility infrastructure here in Wyoming County. We partnered with the states to receive $2 million in PIPE grant funding, and we will be running natural gas utility lines. We actually finished the first phase of that utility line here in Tunkhannock, and the second phase should begin shortly. So we are very excited. We are honored to have the natural gas industry here and be supported by the impact tax. Here today with me to talk more about that is our county commissioner, Wyoming County Commissioner Tom Henry. Thank you.
Thanks, Gina. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for welcoming me here this morning. Definitely, Pennsylvania's natural gas has helped Wyoming County incredibly. You're sitting in our building here, which has been helped with the fees from our impact fees. We've been able to widen our 911 center, our EMA center, and put safety first. We've been able to prioritize things that weren't easy to do before the impact fees. I'd like to thank the gas industry for leading the charge for Wyoming County's growing economy. We have many new businesses, many new shops. It's definitely been a plus win for Wyoming County. Gina touched on, we have natural gas coming in town, and we're on the second phase of that. On the first phase, we'll be operating the courthouse, our jail, our 911 center, all on natural gas, which will save us, I don't even know the amounts it'll save us, hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next few years, on top of the impact fees and everything else that the gas companies have helped us with. Whenever there's a tragedy in town, we've had flooding, we've had major catastrophes, they've always come to us to help us out and to work with us all here. So we, as the commissioners, myself, Judy Mead, Mike Stabinski, we just want to say thank you and tell you how much we appreciate being a part of such a bigger plan and project. So we'd be lost without the impact fee. We've really come to depend on it and use it for the safety of the citizens. So thank you. I'd like to turn it over to Wayne County Commissioner Brian Smith.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to people today about the impact fee. I come at this from Wayne County, a place that has a little bit different perspective on the impact fee and the natural gas than those of you who can take advantage of production. We have no production wells in Wayne County. We do have gas. We did have some exploratory wells, but we've been shut down by the DRBC, who put a moratorium on the process of getting that natural gas out of the ground. There's a couple things that make this country strong and have made this country strong for a long time. That's energy. We have to have energy. We have to have a good economy. And we have to be able to feed ourselves as a nation. That makes us strong as a nation. That's what made us strong forever as a nation. When people came to this country, they came to this country for jobs. One of the things that created jobs here was the fact that we had coal in these mountains. We were able to dig that coal out. We were able to have people come to this country because it was a promise of a better way of life. There were jobs. You could provide for your family. This natural gas is energy. This natural gas does the same thing. It's created jobs. It's created a good economy. It's created stability for farmers who produce food for this country. These are the things that are important. There was a lot of wisdom that went into the creation of the impact fee. This impact fee has gone to counties like Wayne County who don't have gas production. So we all capitalize on pools of money that were set up in this process. We get $85,000 out of a pool of money from a couple different pools, actually. Unconventional gas well pool and actually a PUC pool of money. $85,000 that goes to just our conservation district every year to help pay salaries and administration costs. We also have a pool of money that's a legacy fund. And in this legacy fund, we've been able to do incredible projects. Now, because we don't have active production, we have $55,000 a year approximately that comes to Wayne County. But that's seed money. We've been able to take that $55,000, which actually was $330-some thousand, and turn it into $1.3 million because we could leverage that money as seed money and get grants to do great projects, historical projects, playgrounds for kids, river walks, stormwater projects. This is incredibly important that we continue to be able to do these things. Because this is not just Wayne County that doesn't have production. There are a lot of counties in the state of Pennsylvania that don't have production that still need to have these funds to allow us to move forward and do these incredibly important projects. I would maintain that this impact fee is essential for the future of Pennsylvania. It's essential not only for the future of Pennsylvania because it helps us grow, but it's essential for our country to continue the production of natural gas, to continue to be able to explore, develop, and process and sell natural gas. The people who are taking advantage of natural gas, who have low fuel bills and have had low fuel bills now since it started, are doing much better. We have an economy now that is working in everybody's favor. Let's keep that up. And let's keep this impact fee going. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Commissioner Hall from Susquehanna County. Susquehanna County, of course, is one of the largest producers of natural gas in the United States at this time. We're a small county, 44,000 people, about 800 square miles. And we have more dirt roads than we do paved roads in the county. Before the gas industry came, we were not a wealthy county. We were a very poor county. We have a lot of people that live far below the federal poverty lines. But let's talk about the Act 13. The Act 13 funds have brought in over almost $1.7 billion since the beginning. But let's not just talk about the county. Let's talk about for a second what it's done for the state. You have the state conservation and local conservation districts getting over $53 million. Fish and Boat getting over $8 million. Public Utility Commission, $8 million. DEP, $48 million. PEMA, $6 million. State Fire, $6 million. PennDOT, $8 million. Natural Gas Development, $20 million. $165 million stayed in the state. What would the state do without that money today? How would all those agencies survive and be able to pay their people? Well, let's talk about Susquehanna County for a second. Susquehanna County, our municipalities, our townships, and our boroughs have received over $69 million in impact fee. They've used that money to take care of buying graders, fixing their roads, fixing their buildings, not raising taxes, doing the things in their communities they could have never have done before. Well, let's talk a little bit about the county. The county's received $42 million. And what have we done with $42 million? In 2008, our pension fund was $13 million in the red. It was only 43% funded. Today, our pension fund is 100% funded, one of the best in the state. We also put over almost $15 million in renovations into our facilities. We've done this without borrowing money, without raising taxes, or using any local tax dollars. It's all been through the impact fee. As I said, we put over $13 million in our pension fund. We've also reduced taxes over that period by $5 million. We have not had a tax increase in our county since 2005, but yet we gave $5 million back over the last 5 years. Pretty good deal. Without the impact fee, where would our county be today? Our county would be distressed. It would still be in the red in the pension fund and probably even farther. Most of our people would be very poor as they were before. We've received lots of good royalties in our county, but we have one more big project. On the table over here to my right is 2 drawings. It's for our new public safety building. Currently, our public safety 911 center is in the basement of a building, used to be an old garage. No windows, no nothing, just an old dumpy old garage they converted over. We have a microwave system that we're not licensed on, so if somebody comes in and hits our channel, we're off the air. We are so far outdated, our consoles, we have a guy shopping on eBay trying to find parts for them because they don't even make the parts for them anymore. We're looking at a $15 million project on that table that's going to get paid for with Act 13 money and not 1 penny of the local tax dollars. So I think that's a pretty great deal. It's been wonderful to Susquehanna County. We have done great things in the county because of this money. We've done things that has improved the quality of life for every individual. So I need to thank everybody that was involved. I know Senator Yaw's here today. You know, Senator Baker, retired Representative Sandy Majors, Tina Pickett, and of course Jonathan Fritz with us here today, all fighting to support the Act 13, and Gene and his group being part of the ones that helped carve that out in the beginning has been a great success for our community. Without it, we'd be in big trouble. So again, thank you all, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Commissioners. Job well done. Friends, good morning. I'm State Representative Jonathan Fritz. Proudly represent the 111th Legislative District comprising Wayne and Susquehanna counties. And I'm very happy to be here to speak in support of our current Act 13, the impact fee, which I oftentimes refer to as an impact tax, because basically that's what it is. The revenue generated goes to rural counties and rural municipalities like ours. Is an example of funds benefiting country regions instead of benefiting cities. It is essential that we protect the present structure and prevent any redirection of these dollars into the Harrisburg black hole. Now, speaking from perhaps a slightly more macro concept, it's essential that we adopt an attitude in Pennsylvania where we roll out the red carpet for business instead of suffocating business with red tape. Boils down to embracing business instead of disincentivizing business. Now, please understand that proximity to markets gives us a very, very real advantage. But our punitive regulatory environment and our second highest in the nation corporate tax rate deters business investment. We must realize that harmful policy decisions has real consequence. States that are uninviting to business see population decline, revenue decline, lowered quality of life. Following that are spikes in crime, increased drug use, blight, etc. That downward spiral becomes reality. Pennsylvania, thanks to a natural gas shift in power generation, has realized a 29%, I'm going to repeat that, 29% reduction in CO2 emissions since 2005. We are exceeding ambitious clean air goals put in place by our current administration and our prior federal administration. Pennsylvania at present, frankly, is getting the job done in achieving clean air goals, while at the same time seeing a growth in business, growth in manufacturing, and a growth in responsible industry. We have found that elusive balance. We have found that sweet spot. And to that point, it is essential that we are focused and vigilant in pushing back against policy changes that would surely derail any positive advancement. Rural Pennsylvania, blue-collar Pennsylvanians, the farmer, the laborer, hard-working brothers and sisters, the silent majority must, absolutely must, rise up, stand shoulder to shoulder, and push back against these special interests and elitist policy agendas. They simply place us on a dangerous path. So please understand, friends, commissioners, fellow legislators, all of you folks in the industry, I've got your back, but in return, I need you to have my back. Again, I'm Representative Jonathan Fritz, and I wish you all a good day and continued success. Next up, we're going to bring in Senator Gene Yaw, a good friend and a trusted colleague.
Good morning, everybody. I'd just like to talk about the gas industry in some general terms. I know the commissioners have talked about the details of what it's meant to them. A couple of things that have already been mentioned. First of all, I guess I should say, I share a lot of this area with Senator Baker. My understanding, Senator Baker's son is getting married today, so that's the only reason I'm sure that she's not here. So, in any event, the DRBC was mentioned. Senator Baker and I have joined on every time we get a chance to take on the DRBC or say something. She sponsored legislation that says that this is a taking. We'll see where that goes. I have joined in lawsuits against the DRBC as the chairman of the Environmental Resources and Energy Committee, but we're working on it. I think it's egregious what that organization has done to part of Pennsylvania, and it's controlled by people that aren't from Pennsylvania, frankly, and that's part of the problem. The PIPE program was mentioned. I guess I'll do a personal editorial. The PIPE program was a bill that I had introduced, I forget how many years ago, and it was the purpose of it. It's really gratifying to hear that it's working like it was intended, and that is to extend natural gas lines and to make the production gas more available to Pennsylvanians. Almost 50% of Pennsylvania households don't have access to natural gas. We're one of the largest producers. We're the second largest producer in the United States. That makes us one of the largest producers in the world. And half of our residents don't have access to natural gas. That makes no sense to me at all. The PIPE program, I'll give you a little bit of background. We had to look around for money to fund it. We found some money in some green building programs that had been sitting there for 15 years and nobody bothered to access it. So that's where the first, I think, $15 or $20 million came from, and then we did the same thing most recently to kind of replenish it. But it has worked really well. Maybe we can put more money in it, and hopefully that will help get gas to more people. The gas industry, just think about this. That industry came to Pennsylvania. They didn't ask for anything. If you remember, Pennsylvania was trying to get Amazon, right? We were trying to get Amazon to come to either Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. We supposedly, the legislature really was not privy to all the details that the governor had worked out, but supposedly with Amazon, there were billions of dollars offered to Amazon through tax breaks of all sort to get them to come here. And obviously they didn't come. What have we done to the gas industry, or what have we offered the gas industry? Nothing. Yeah, maybe a hard time in some respects. So, I mean, that means a lot, I think, and it's something that's overlooked. I don't care. Yeah, look, am I saying that the gas industry is perfect in everything that they do? Of course not. There is no industry of this size that moves anywhere that doesn't have a few glitches. I mean, I'm not that naive, but it has worked out extremely well, in my opinion. Since 2012, when the impact fee legislation was signed by Governor Corbett, actually it was on Valentine's Day, February 14th, we have distributed about somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.4, $1.5 billion. That's all come back. Now, what's really interesting is, you've already heard, Susquehanna County is the largest producer in Pennsylvania. We have gotten to the point where my understanding is, there are a few more holes being drilled in the southwest. They're drilling more holes, but their holes aren't not as productive as ours. So, I mean, in a nutshell, that's kind of the difference. The money that's distributed through the impact fee, the kind of the neat thing about it, I guess the legislature, we did something right. There's no grant process. You don't have to file an application. You don't have to go to your legislator and get it approved. You don't have to do anything. There's a formula. The money goes through the PUC. They apply the formula. The checks are cut and sent out. I mean, that's kind of an amazing way for government to work, at least in my opinion it is. You've heard a lot of the comment, we're the only major gas producing state that doesn't have a severance tax. Well, we are the only major gas producing state that has an impact fee. Now, yesterday I had an event in Bradford County and with it was a farm-related event. We invite FFA students to come to that, and there was one FFA student, probably a 9th or 10th grader, stood up and he said, we had been talking about stream cleaning, doing all kinds of things like that, and what we need to do to help with the Chesapeake Bay. And he stood up and he said, why don't you just tax the gas companies? And I looked at him and I said, and I explained about the 1.4 billion that have been distributed and all this and everything and how much money had come back to Bradford County, like close to $100 million, I think. And he said, well, that's not what my teacher said. I mean, it's just that things are not, really being put out there in a fair way. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that our impact fee brings in more money than the severance taxes in Arkansas, Colorado, Ohio, and West Virginia combined. So just think about that. So what? It's called a different name. It's still a tax, and it's still we get the money. Renewable energy. You hear about renewable energy, and I can't help. Every time I come, for me to get to my district, which is the western half of Susquehanna County, I have to drive through 5 counties, and of course I come through this area and I see the windmills. Well, are you going to participate in the strike this afternoon? What is it? Strike for climate change, climate or whatever, and there's ads on television. They're asking people to, students especially, to get up and walk out of classes and all that stuff. Anyway, okay. Let me talk a little bit about renewable energy. It's one of my favorites. You hear the thing all the time, freedom is not free. I think the same thing applies to renewable energy. It's not free. Where do windmills come from? They just appear? Every windmill that's out there is 900 tons of steel, 2,500 tons of concrete, 43 tons of plastic. Where does it come from? Somebody's got to make it. Solar panels. Solar panels, who makes these things? What's in solar panels? Batteries, car batteries. The car batteries, for electric cars, each one weighs about 1,000 pounds. Where in the hell does this stuff come from? It just doesn't appear. My suggestion we're going to do a lot of mining, is what we're going to do. Cobalt is necessary to make batteries as well as lithium. You know where the primary source of cobalt is? The Republic of Congo. And we know that the Republic of Congo meets every environmental standard in the world. They have great things. They've got the highest pay scales. Environmentally, we couldn't ask for anything better. And guess where it's all processed? 90% of it's processed in China. So, you know, when you say this stuff is free, my recommendation to you is you should all buy Caterpillar stock, because there's going to be a hell of a lot of digging. Anyway, so, you know, that one of the things from my perspective as the chairman of the Environmental Resources and Energy Committee that I am really worried about, how do we recycle this stuff? We had a hearing in Harrisburg, and one of the issues that came up during this hearing was how long solar panels last. The advocates for the industry said, oh, they'll last 30, 35 years. I thought it was really interesting. The Environmental Defense Fund, who I probably don't see eye to eye with very often, said maximum 15 years. And then how do we recycle this stuff? There's some nasty things in solar panels. From my perspective, what do we do in Pennsylvania? How do we recycle these things? That's just a question that's out there. So, I mean, when I said the whole thing about it's not free, it's not. And what amazes me is people don't think any farther ahead. It's like, okay, what do we have to do? For every windmill, I think it takes 250 tons of mining somewhere in order to produce what's needed to build a windmill. You know, maybe it's okay and maybe they're necessary, but then let's be realistic about it. And that's the one thing I don't think that people are. I read an article the other day, and it said, you know, the failure to recognize the gas industry and its importance and in the whole climate change scheme and emissions and everything else, it's like for those people who say we don't want anything to do with the gas industry, we want nothing to do with fracking, it's bad. That's like saying the house is burning and we could put it out with water, but we're not going to put water on the fire because it might cause water damage inside. It makes no sense to not embrace the gas industry, which we've done here, and look at the benefit. I don't know how many of you know people from like the southeastern part of the state or any of the places like that. Every time I invite them, I manage to get them to come north of Interstate 80, which sometimes is not difficult to do. I tell them, look for what you don't see, because there are an awful lot of people that have the feeling and the belief that anywhere the gas industry is doing business, everything is desolate, it's brown, and there are a few scraggly trees sticking up. I'm telling you, that's, and I tell them all the time, look for what you don't see. So the industry has come here. I think it's been a great plus. I think that Act 13 is probably the greatest piece of legislation in the past 100 years for rural Pennsylvania. There's just no question about it. And people here have really taken advantage of it. And when I hear things that like are happening in Susquehanna County with it and the use of it, that's exactly what we intended. So congratulations and thank you. Continue the good work. And with that, I'll shut up and introduce the president of the Marcellus Shale Coalition that I've known now for many, many years, Dave Spiegelmeyer.
Thanks, Senator. There's a lot of things that have been discussed today. I'll see if I can kind of bring it full circle. And I think, first of all, I just say this is a bit of a celebration of a decade of development. And I want to thank our county commissioners, our Senate leadership, our House leadership, and the members of both bodies for their incredible foresight in the development of the impact fee, but also to embrace an industry that's been game-changing for our country. You think back a decade ago, we were more than 60% dependent on foreign sources of oil. We were very dependent on Gulf Coast supplies of natural gas to come into our state to keep our homes warm and to feed our commercial businesses and our industries. Today, 20% of our nation's supply of natural gas comes from Pennsylvania, and this region is a leader among leaders. This is a world-class dry gas play that we have here in northeastern Pennsylvania that's game-changing for our country. Today, we have the ability to fuel not only our nation with our natural gas supplies, but to help electrify the planet. We still have 3 billion people across our planet that live every day without the creature comforts that we enjoy every day, the access to electricity that is game-changing in each of our lives. From an impact fee that now has generated $1.7 billion, it's been spread broadly across Pennsylvania. A number of our speakers talked about the contributions to state agencies, but it's not hard to see the support that's given, in this region, over $150 million just in county and local governments in the 4-state region. You had Bradford in there, you're close to $300 million in this region that's been invested. I grew up in central Pennsylvania in a small town, not much different than where we sit today in Tunkhannock. Many of our towns have lost our businesses and our industries, and the ability to gain state funding to do those important projects. Some would say little projects. I would say they're life-sustaining projects that your communities require. The foresight of the legislative leadership to find a way to push money back into small communities, into local government, into county government is incredible. And I got to be honest with you, I've been in this industry 37 years. I'm proud as a peacock to be able to go into our counties and our communities to see the great work and the foresight that our leaders have put into how we invest these dollars into the betterment of our communities. Just to close, I realize that that serving underserved communities with natural gas has taken longer than we would have hoped. I would tell you that the leadership in both the House and Senate is important. I know that with commodity prices, and many of you don't realize that natural gas commodity prices were at record highs in 2008. Every single utility in Pennsylvania, their commodity rates for natural gas are down anywhere from 56 to 76%, depending on which utility. That's game-changing as well for residents that use natural gas. Your wholesale power generation rates, the fact that now natural gas is the first dispatch fuel for power generation, or one of the first, is down 41%. Those savings to consumers are real and they're important, and we're really proud to be a part of that. We're proud that Susquehanna has embraced this industry and this region has embraced this industry. I know we've got a lot of our operators here. Most of us around the table that I have the honor of helping to lead, I would share with you, the bulk of them are Pennsylvanians. They like to do the same things you do. They like to hike and bike and hunt and fish and camp and do all the things that other Pennsylvanians like to do. We want to make sure it gets done correctly. We have fought to modernize regulations in the Commonwealth to make sure it gets done correctly. There's not shortcuts taken. I'm not saying there's never a mistake made, but I would tell you our people care deeply about making sure we leave Pennsylvania as good or better when we leave. So I want to say thanks for having us here in Wyoming County today in Tunkhannock. I want to say that our industry is grateful for the partnership that we've got with this region, and we're going to continue to be responsible operators of natural gas development here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So thanks every one of you for being here today. Appreciate it.
The impacts have been so big in our county. I mean, to say it's big is an understatement. I mean, we're talking about not only the revenues from the Act 13 that have helped all the municipalities, the county. I mean, I walked in the courthouse 8 years ago as a new commissioner, and we still had a guy shoveling coal in a 100-year-old furnace twice a day, 7 days a week. We now have 2 natural gas boilers that saves us over $100,000 a year in heating. Plus, we've been able to take and modernize our whole courthouse. But it's all the revenue that's come in to help all the municipalities. But it's, we've gotten over $2 billion to the local residents in royalties and bonus payments. $2 billion. I mean, that's huge for people. So people are buying cars, they're fixing their farms, they're building barns, they're fixing their homes, they're building homes. The economy has just skyrocketed in the county by this revenue that's coming through the county. And it gets trickled down because the guy that's receiving the revenue on the farm is now spending it at the car dealership. That guy's spending it someplace else. So it just keeps going over and over. And businesses have grown, hardware stores have doubled, restaurants have got business like they can't believe. So it's been a huge, huge impact to our county. Like I said earlier, show me another industry in the state of Pennsylvania that's putting, $100 million into the state coffers for all the state agencies. It doesn't exist. So, I mean, the gas company is paying far more than anybody else. They're not whining about it. They're doing what they need to do. They're good neighbors. They do everything. They help with the roads. They do agreements with the townships on the dirt roads. They help out every place they can. They've given money to our local hospital, millions of dollars to our local college, millions of dollars to all kinds of donations throughout the community. I don't have another industry that does that.
I'm in support of the natural gas industry because primarily Act 13. Now in Wayne County we do have gas. We're just unable to access the gas because of a moratorium that's been put on by the Delaware River Basin Commission. So that being said, I'm here because we get dollars out of Act 13 that allow us to do projects that we would never be able to do at costs that we could never afford if we didn't have this seed money. So we get about $330-some hundred-thousand over since 2011. We've turned that into $1.3 million of projects just by using the seed money to access a grant, and then we have match to be able to get the grant. So it's really allowed us to do some incredible projects that, again, we would never have been able to do before. And these are projects, quite honestly, that there's a lot of people involved in these groups who don't like the production of natural gas, so it's kind of ironic that they're willing to allow the dollars that come out of the impact fee to match their grant to do the projects like walking trails along the river, like playgrounds, like ball fields, like we did a water quality study, a baseline water quality study. We've protected Lock 31 Canal House. And again, a lot of those people are people who fight the industry. But those dollars serve everybody. You know, so it's a little bit ironic in that way. We also get tip money that comes to us that we can use for transportation improvement projects. A 15% match can go to a bridge projects, and if you know anything about bridge projects, they're extremely expensive. And we would have an awful time coming up with the money to be able to get that 15% match. So as well as the dollars that come through conservation that help pay salaries and administrative costs of $85,000 a year, I have to say that not having gas production in Wayne County and having Act 13, we still are the beneficiary of this industry. And I'm not the only county. I'm just the only county that's here today talking from the perspective of a county that doesn't have production. I think these are people who are not looking for an education. They simply don't want it. I think they don't want it for a variety of reasons. I've talked to people who don't want it because they don't want trucks going by their house. They came to our area to retire, and they don't want the chaos of a water truck going by their house 2-3 times a day. They're not thinking for the future. They're thinking about their retirement, this very small time frame. And these people are also people who have, again, a variety of reasons, but are able to jump on, let's save the environment, and so that's something that gets a lot of attention, and that's something that they've grabbed a hold of as the flag to carry. But I would maintain that it's self-interest from a lot of individuals that are just capitalizing on that environmental flag that just for their own reasons don't want it. Not in my backyard, So they're not looking for an education. They're not looking for science to support our side. They're just simply carrying that flag screaming, this is going to wreck the environment. And again, I would maintain that we have to think broadly about energy in the United States. I said before that one of the things that started this whole superpower nation was the fact that we had energy. We now have a brand new energy that's a lot cleaner than coal that can last a long, long time and get us to the next thing. So why not embrace it? Why not try to make it as safe as possible, but also recognize that our country needs this.